Chapter 1. The Reclusive Author. In the heart of Dashville's Bloomsbury Square, where fog clings to lamplight, and the echoes of carriage wheels resound upon cobblestone, Mr. Enzo Vale dwelt in deliberate seclusion. His chamber, lined with volumes of the ancients and the romantics, was a sanctum for his restless mind. There, amidst the perpetual twilight of drawn curtains, Enzo labored over his latest novel, his only companion, the melancholy ticking of the clock. Though his talents as a novelist had garnered the approval of critics and the envy of less fortunate writers, Enzo's heart was weighted by a solitude that no applause could lift. It was whispered among his rare acquaintances that his heart belonged, in secret, to Miss Haley Hargrave, a woman as brilliant as she was, beautiful, whose wit sparkled at gatherings, and whose kindness was never feigned. Yet, surrounded as she was by gentlemen of birth and fortune, what hope had a reclusive writer of winning her regard? Chapter 2. The Mystical Discovery. It was on a tempestuous night, as thunder trembled through the city and the rain battered his window panes, that Enzo's pen began to move of its own volition. He wrote, as ever, with fastidious care, but now his words seemed to shimmer with a strange potency. The incidents he described: an acquaintance calling at his door, a letter arriving out of turn, soon unfolded precisely as he had set them down. At first, Enzo dismissed the occurrences as coincidence, the workings of an overwrought mind. But as the days unfurled, the evidence mounted. A single sentence, inked in the dead of night, would find its echo in events come morning. The boundary between invention and reality had become, for Enzo, perilously thin. Chapter 3. The Temptation of Power. With this power came both exhilaration and dread. Enzo, cautious by nature, tested the limits of his command with trivialities. A brief change in the weather, a chance encounter on the street, yet each experiment emboldened him. His thoughts returned inevitably to Haley. Tormented by longing, he finally yielded to temptation. He wrote a scene of gentle affection, casting himself and Haley beneath the ancient oak in Russell Square. His words painted her gaze as soft and lingering, her speech as tremulous with new feeling. He found his hand, almost against his will, crafting further details. Haley, with a newfound confidence, began to wear red lipstick that set off the porcelain clarity of her complexion. Her dresses, always elegant, now seemed chosen with a particular care for grace and allure. Each time she entered a room, Enzo could not help but notice the subtle transformation, how her presence radiated a quiet, captivating charm. Most enchanting of all, whenever she spoke to him, her tone was gently friendly, suffused with warmth and a delicate intimacy that made Enzo's heart tremble with hope. The next day, to his astonishment and secret delight, Haley greeted him with uncharacteristic warmth. Her laughter, once reserved for others, now seemed meant for him alone. The trace of red upon her lips, the shimmer of her dress, the soft lilt of her voice, they were exactly as he had described. Chapter 4. Reality Unraveled. The weeks that followed were a waking dream. Each passage Enzo wrote was mirrored in life. Haley's suitors faded mysteriously into the background. Her attentions became singularly fixed upon him. Her red lips smiled only for him. Her elegant gowns seemed chosen for his gaze alone. And her voice, whenever she addressed him, was unfailingly kind and inviting. Yet, as their intimacy grew, so too did Enzo's unease. Haley's affection, once gentle, now burned with an intensity that unsettled him. She sought his company with a fervor that bordered on desperation, her correspondence arriving morning, noon, and night. Still, there were moments of genuine delight. At the annual Bloomsbury Square Spring Picnic, a couple's racing competition was announced, one in which the lady would ride on the gentleman's back, and together they would dash for the finish. To the surprise of all assembled, and perhaps to himself most of all, Enzo found himself volunteering alongside Haley. The crowd's laughter and cheers rose in a chorus as Haley, all elegance and laughter, climbed onto Enzo's back. "Hold tight," he called, nerves and excitement mingling in his voice. Haley's friendly encouragement rang in his ear. "I trust you, Mr. Vale. Run as if your story depended on it." They sped across the green, weaving past other couples, Haley's laughter bright and free. Against all expectations, they surged ahead. With one last determined stride, Enzo crossed the finish, Hayley still perched triumphantly on his back. The crowd erupted in applause, and Hayley's delighted smile was reward enough for any exhaustion Enzo felt. Yet, it was another of Enzo's written imaginings that brought them closer than ever. One evening, emboldened by his mysterious power, Enzo wrote that he and Hayley would be trapped together for some considerable time in a charming flower shop as a sudden downpour swept the city. The air was heavy with the scent of lilies, violets, and roses. Golden lamplight flickered upon petals and leaves, casting soft shadows across Hayley's features. As the rain lashed the windows, the world outside faded into a watercolor blur, leaving only the two of them amongst blooms of every shade. They conversed quietly at first, voices nearly hushed by the fragrant hush of the shop. But as time spun out, their conversation deepened laughter, giving way to confidences, and silences growing sweet rather than awkward. Hayley's eyes shone with mischief and curiosity, her words warm and gently teasing. The setting itself seemed to conspire toward intimacy. Blossoms pressed close, colors rich and inviting, the subtle brush of Hayley's hand against his as she admired a spray of peonies. By the time the rain finally ceased, Enzo's heart was pounding, and Hayley's glance lingered with an unmistakable, seductive warmth. But even as he basked in the closeness, a shadow of doubt crept in. Had he truly won her affection, or simply written it into being? Chapter 5. The Turning of the Tables. One golden afternoon, as Enzo sat lost in tormented thought, Hayley herself appeared at his door. She entered his shadowy study with a quiet assurance, her red lips and elegant dress just as he had written them. He welcomed her in, unable to conceal his nervous admiration. As Enzo was called away momentarily by his gardener, Hayley's eyes fell upon his open manuscript, pages upon pages that bore not only her name, but the secrets of her recent behavior, described with a precision that made her blood run cold. Realization dawned with a mix of disbelief and indignation. She had not chosen this affection or this change. The author's quill, not her heart, had dictated the course of her feelings. With a decisive breath, Hayley seated herself at Enzo's desk. She picked up his pen, its ink barely dry, and began to write, her hands steady and her mind sharp. From this day forth, Enzo Vale found his heart drawn to another, a charming woman of intellect and grace who brought him laughter and perspective, freeing him from his melancholic solitude. As for Hayley Hargrave, her beauty and spirit caught the attention of Lord Ashbury, the wealthiest man in Dashville, who soon proposed in a flourish of devotion and whose love she accepted with genuine joy. Hayley's laughter, once clouded, now rang pure and light, her choices her own once more. By the time Enzo returned, Hayley had vanished, leaving only the faint scent of rosewater and the newly written lines upon the page. Later that evening, unable to rest, Enzo found himself wandering the lamplit streets until he chanced upon Hayley in the square. Tentative and a touch bewildered, he addressed her. "But why not ask for riches all for yourself? You could have had it all." Hayley regarded him with a gentle smile, her eyes shining with a quiet wisdom. "Because, Mr. Vale," she replied, her voice warm but resolute, "to have it all and lose oneself is no true fortune. I wished only to restore what was mine, the freedom to choose, the honesty of my own heart. Love and wealth mean nothing if they are not freely chosen or rightfully earned." A silence fell between them, at once rueful and sweet, before Hayley offered a parting nod and turned away, her steps light, her spirit unburdened. Chapter 6. The Reckoning. The days that followed were bewildering. Enzo found his heart, inexplicably, turning toward a new acquaintance, literally, one he hardly remembered meeting, yet who now seemed to fill his every thought. Meanwhile, word reached him that Hayley had accepted a most advantageous proposal. She seemed radiant, her correspondence, when it came, filled with genuine happiness and fond memories, but no hint of longing. Enzo realized the folly of playing author with the hearts of others. He placed his pen aside, humbled by the lesson Hayley had imparted. Epilogue. Mr. Enzo Vale's novel, when at last it appeared, was hailed as a masterpiece, a tale of longing, magic, and surrender. And though he never won Miss Hayley's hand, he won something greater, The knowledge that love, like art, must be free to choose. Not to mention Miss, literally, who on one of her exceptional days could easily outshine even the Sunday. And as for Miss Haley, she lived brightly, her destiny once again her own, a woman not of another's invention, but of her own making.